Look like Caitlin Clark could be returning this week after all. Guys, for this one here.
Breaking news out of Indiana. The Fever just made a roster move that has the whole WNBA buzzing.
I'm telling you, when Caitlin gets back, it's going to be scary from a backcourt standpoint because the two of them with the ball in their hands, without the ball.
That's a threat.
And as a post player, your eyes have to light up. Because if there's that much attention from the backcourt,
they're going to find you.
If you set screens, if you set early drags in transition, sky's the limit of what you all are able to accomplish.
Caitlin Clark's name is now back in the conversation, and fans are losing their minds about what this means. Could we finally see her return? I'll break it all down, but first, do you think this move signals Clark's comeback?
Today, August 18th, 2025, according to the WNBA transactions page, the Indiana Fever released Kyra Lambert. So if that is indeed the end of Kyra Lambert's Indiana Fever tenure, it did not last very long. It was just last week we were figuring out who Kyra Lambert was and what her signing meant for the team.
The Indiana Fever have officially released Kyra Lambert, and for most people that's just a small transaction buried at the bottom of the sports page. But for Fever fans, and honestly for the whole WNBA right now, it feels like something much bigger. You don't just cut a player in the middle of the season unless you're about to make a major roster change. And the obvious name sitting in the middle of this storm is Caitlin Clark.
So the Indiana Fever waived Kyra Maxwell, and she didn't even get a thank you post. She didn't even get a thank you post from the Indiana Fever. They didn't even get a thank you, Kyra Maxwell. She didn't get a thank you post. But a lot of people are celebrating this because they think that Caitlin Clark's coming back.
Now let's not sugarcoat it. Clark hasn't been on the court recently, and every game she's missed has left fans on edge. She didn't even travel with the team this past week, and that made the speculation louder. Is the Fever just being careful? Or is this part of a larger plan to bring her back in the spotlight at the perfect time? With Lambert gone, a roster spot just opened up. And unless Indiana has some secret deal with an overseas player we don't know about, the math points to Clark.
We've been referring to. I know Rudy from Coming Out the Podcast. Shout out to Rudy. Rudy did a whole entire video breaking down what Holly Rose said. Is Caitlin Clark coming back within the next week or so? I personally wouldn't bring her back against the Minnesota Lynx, but also, depending on the severity of Sophie Cunningham's injury, I might not bring her back, period, for the rest of the season. I might play if Sophie can't come back, if it's not serious, then maybe we are talking about Caitlin Clark coming back. I did say when she went down and this period of time started to get longer and longer and longer and longer, by the time she's cleared, if we're in a playoff spot.
Of course, WNBA fans can't just take this at face value. People are immediately jumping online, throwing out wild theories. Some think this means the Fever might sign Kennedy Carter, which makes zero sense because she literally just signed elsewhere. Others are convinced this is Indiana trying to cover themselves after failing to get Sophie Cunningham fully healthy again. But when you look at the facts, all arrows keep pointing back to one conclusion. Caitlin Clark's return is closer than anyone expected. Let's be real here. Kyra Lambert played 1 minute across 2 games. That's it. 1 minute. That's not a rotation player. That's not even a bench piece you're planning around. That's a warm body in practice and a name at the bottom of the roster. The Fever gave her a chance. It didn't work and now they're moving on. Fine. But the timing is what makes this fascinating. They could have made this move weeks ago. Why now? Why right before 2 of the biggest games of their season against the Minnesota Lynx?
I think she's going to return by the end of the season. The question is, when? Are we really bringing her back against the Minnesota Lynx? Would that be the smartest idea? No, not really. Not really. Let's take a look. The Indiana Fever have been playing through the 2025 season under head coach Stephanie White. Indiana is led by Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, Sophie Cunningham, and several other stars. While they have one of the best rosters in the league, they've been missing Clark. Clark has missed a majority of the season, currently working through a groin injury. The last time Clark was on the floor was a matchup against the Connecticut Sun on July 16th, while the Fever were on a 3-game win streak. It's been over a month at this point.
The Lynx are sitting at the top of the league 28-5, steamrolling everybody. And Indiana knows they can't survive without star power. They've clawed their way back up to 6th in the standings, which is impressive given how rough things looked earlier. But if they want to stay in playoff contention, they need Clark on the floor. Nobody else on that roster can change games the way she does, and the Fever's front office knows it.
The first thing that I wanted to bring up is a comment that Scott Agnes made on his YouTube channel. Scott Agnes was replying to someone else's comment who said, "Just can't wait until Cece is back. She's the most dynamic, electric player in the WNBA. Great job, Lexi." And then Scott Agnes replied and he said, "Have patience, at least several more weeks." Now, Scott Agnes is a beat reporter for the Indiana Fever. He has been covering them relentlessly all season, and we have gotten a lot of great information from Scott over the season. And I actually went to his YouTube channel and just kind of skimmed through the comments to see if there was anything else. There was one other reply where he was replying to someone and basically said, like, "You have to trust me or just trust me." It's up to viewers' discretion. It's up to the fans if they want to believe what he's saying, but several more weeks pretty much puts Caitlin Clark to coming back at the very end of the regular season.
So here's the question that keeps getting louder. Is Indiana really about to throw Caitlin Clark back into action against the best team in the league? Or is this some kind of smokescreen to keep fans hopeful while the medical staff drags this out a little longer? If you ask me, putting Clark back on the court against Minnesota feels reckless. That's baptism by fire. That's throwing her into the lion's den and hoping she comes out with at least 25 points and some highlight passes. The Fever have to be smarter than that, right? Right. Well, then again, this is the Fever we're talking about. The same team where fans openly wonder if Amber Cox and Stephanie White are even on the same page. Half the time it feels like one of them is managing for the future while the other is desperate to win now, and that confusion shows up on the court. Cutting Lambert in itself is not a big move. But when you tie it to Clark's potential return, it suddenly looks like desperation mixed with hope. And that's the exact cocktail Indiana has been serving all season. Let's not forget Clark is in her second year now, not some rookie wide-eyed at her first taste of pro ball. She's been through the chaos. She's seen how rough this league can get when every veteran decides your body is open season. She knows the physical toll, the media noise, and the non-stop circus that follows her everywhere she goes. Coming back now at this exact moment is not just about being healthy. It's about proving she can carry a team through pressure that would crush most players. Fans, of course, are latching on to every tiny clue. When the Fever moved from 7th back up to 6th in the rankings, people immediately said, "See, Clark is coming back." As if the standings magically tell us what's happening behind the scenes. It's a nice thought, but let's be honest, Indiana's success without her has been shaky at best. If anything, the rankings only highlight how badly they need her return. And the schedule brutal. Absolutely brutal. Minnesota twice in a row, then Seattle, then the Sparks, then the Valkyries, and then Phoenix and Chicago. Oh, and Washington gets sprinkled in there for good measure. If you're Clark, when do you want to come back? You don't want your first game to be against Minnesota because that's a guaranteed headache. You don't want Seattle either because they'll make it personal. So maybe the Sparks, maybe the Valkyries. Those feel like more manageable landing spots. But the Fever might not wait that long, and that's the risk. The crazy part is while all this is happening, fans are watching social media like hawks. They're checking the Fever's X account every 5 minutes, refreshing Scott Agnes' feed and blowing up every insider for scraps of information. And guess what? Nobody's saying a word. Not Chloe BBY, not Sophie Cunningham, not the coaches. Silence. Which only makes it worse because silence in this league means one of two things. Either they're hiding bad news or they're about to drop a bombshell announcement. And the WNBA needs that announcement badly. This league is starving for storylines that move the needle. And Caitlin Clark is the only player right now who does it on a nightly basis. Love her or hate her, she gets people to watch. She sells tickets. She fills arenas. So, if Indiana is finally ready to bring her back, don't just expect a quiet press release. Expect fireworks. Expect highlight reels. Expect the league to milk this for every ounce of attention they can get. But here's the cynical side of it. What if the Fever is just dangling hope to distract from their problems? Cutting Lambert gives fans something to chew on, but it doesn't fix the team's lack of depth. It doesn't make up for Sophie Cunningham's shaky status. It doesn't solve the coaching confusion. All it does is open one roster spot, and if that spot isn't for Clark, then what's the point? Signing another bench warmer isn't going to change anything, and that's where the frustration kicks in. Fans have been through this roller coaster too many times. They've seen the Fever mismanage rotations, botch player development, and fall apart in big moments. Now, with Clark's return hanging in the balance, every decision feels magnified. If Indiana handles this wrong, the backlash will be ugly. Now, here's the part that really makes this whole thing hilarious. The Indiana Fever finally start moving players around, making big decisions. And out of all the players they release, it's Kira Lambert. Now, no disrespect to Kira, but let's be honest, this move wasn't about Kira at all. She was basically holding a seat at the table until Caitlin Clark was ready to reclaim it. That's the cold truth of the WNBA. Half these roster moves are less about strategy and more about who do we have to cut to clear space for the star. And who's the star? Caitlin Clark. Always Caitlin Clark. So now Fever fans are buzzing. WNBA Twitter is on fire. And every sports blog is suddenly acting like they've been following the Fever religiously since 1997. Everyone's saying the same thing. Caitlin Clark's return is coming sooner than expected. And honestly, if you've been paying attention, it makes perfect sense. Why else would Indiana make a move right now? This isn't the type of roster shuffle you make in the middle of a random week, unless you're getting ready to bring back your franchise player. And that's the funny part. Everyone's pretending this is some shocking announcement, but deep down, everyone knows the league can't afford to keep its biggest draw off the floor any longer. Ticket sales, they need Caitlin. TV ratings, they need Caitlin. Hype, they need Caitlin. Without her, the Fever are just another mid-tier WNBA team fighting for 6th place in the standings. With her, suddenly ESPN sending camera crews. Every sports show has a Caitlin Clark segment and merch sales are going through the roof. Indiana knows exactly what's at stake and so does the league. Let's also talk about timing because that matters here. The Fever's upcoming schedule is brutal. Minnesota twice, then Seattle, then the Sparks, then the Valkyries. That's a stretch that could sink their season if they don't have their star back. So, the front office looked at that and said, yeah, we better get Caitlin back on the floor now because this lineup is going to eat us alive. And you can't blame them. Without Caitlin's shooting and her ability to draw fouls, this team doesn't stand a chance against the Lynx or Storm. The Fever need her presence, even if she's not 100% yet. Now here's where it gets even juicier. This isn't just about basketball anymore. The Caitlin Clark saga has turned into this cultural circus where every little thing she does or doesn't do becomes a headline. She misses a game, it's national news, she comes back, it's a historic return, someone fouls her hard. Suddenly, we're talking about federal investigations and Trump possibly getting involved. It's completely insane. Caitlin Clark isn't just a player anymore. She's a walking storyline, a ratings magnet, and apparently a political football too. So, yeah, when Indiana makes a roster move like this, the ripple effect is massive. You've got fans dissecting it like it's a Supreme Court ruling. You've got WNBA insiders scrambling to confirm whether the move was legit. Because, let's face it, half of them didn't even notice Kira Lambert was on the roster in the first place. And then you've got the rest of the league watching closely because Caitlin Clark's return changes everything. Every team in the WNBA has to adjust their strategy when she's on the floor. Suddenly, defenses collapse, spacing opens up, and role players start looking like stars just because she's drawing double teams. And if you think the Fever don't know that, you're kidding yourself. This whole move screams desperation mixed with calculation. They're not just trying to survive. They're trying to make a statement. They want to show the league, the fans, and even Caitlin herself that they're all in on this season. And honestly, they don't really have a choice. Indiana without Caitlin Clark is like Netflix without shows. You can keep it running, but nobody's paying attention. Of course, there's always the possibility that Indiana is bluffing, that maybe this move isn't directly tied to Caitlin's return. But come on, how many times are we going to play that game? Every single decision this franchise makes revolves around Caitlin Clark. She's not just the centerpiece of the roster, she's the centerpiece of the league right now. And whether the Fever admit it or not, everything they do is about maximizing her impact. Now, let's not forget the fans in all this because they're the real winners here. Fever fans have been starving for good news, and this is the kind of announcement that reignites hope. They've been through years of mediocrity and suddenly with Caitlin in town, there's finally something worth getting excited about. So yeah, they're running wild with speculation. They're buying tickets in bulk and they're already planning for a playoff run. Is it premature? Probably. But can you blame them? After watching this team struggle for so long, Caitlin Clark feels like the savior they've been waiting for. And that's why the WNBA itself is in shock. Not because Indiana made a roster move, but because the ripple effects of Caitlin Clark's return are about to hit every corner of the league. Every team, every player, every coach, they're all going to have to deal with it. The WNBA has been desperate for mainstream attention for years, and now they've got it. The problem is, it all revolves around one player, and when one player has that much power, it makes the entire league look shaky. So, while Indiana is busy patting itself on the back for making tough roster decisions, let's call it what it really is. A sign that Caitlin Clark is about to walk back into the spotlight. And when she does, the WNBA is going to milk it for everything it's worth. TV specials, highlight reels, endless debates on ESPN, it's all coming. And honestly, as much as it exposes how dependent the league has become on one player, you can't deny it's good business. So, yeah, Indiana Fever makes a huge announcement, but let's be real. The only announcement that matters is Caitlin Clark's return. And when that happens, it's not just the Fever who will feel the impact. The whole league will.